Millions of drivers who bought cars on finance before 2021 could be in line for a payout over mis-sold car loans. That's after the Financial Conduct Authority, the regulator, said it will consider a compensation scheme which could cost up to £18 billion.
Well, we spoke to Martin Lewis on Friday, who brilliantly laid out the jeopardy ahead of the Supreme Court ruling. And he, I think, is there with us to talk now. You really laid it out for us brilliantly. We were on tenterhooks. In the end, the potential sort of worst-case scenario, certainly from the bank's perspective and potentially for the economy, didn't happen. So what is this latest development about, and how can people make sure they get the money they might be owed?
OK, so let's go back to the basics. As I explained on Friday, there are effectively, the best way to think about it, two strands of car finance mis-selling. You had the Supreme Court strand that was primarily bought by claims firms, and two of the three elements that the Court of Appeal upheld were overturned by the Supreme Court. So only one of that bit of that is left. I'll come to that later. Then you have the other strand, and this is the regulatory strand, not the court strand, the one that was going through the regulator, the FCA. It launched an investigation into what's called discretionary commission arrangements. You heard Nick talking about it a few moments ago, or DCAs, in January 2024. Now, this was on hold, waiting for the Supreme Court decision, but wasn't part of the Supreme Court decision. The real key was everyone was waiting to see, was there anything in the Supreme Court decision that would be a wobbler for this type of car finance mis-selling? There wasn't. So this is now rekindled, nothing to do with the court. It's back to where it was. Discretionary commission arrangements are where if you got a car finance deal on hire purchase or PCP after 2007, although there are questions about how far this reclaiming will go back, up until January 2021 when they were banned, then the car broker or dealer the interest rate could be increased in order to increase the commission that they got. Crucially, if you weren't told that, and virtually nobody was, and it wasn't in your documentation, and it rarely was, and they increase your interest rate substantially, you could be due a payback. Now, the interesting thing about this is people say, how do I know if I had one of these DCAs? You don't. About 40% of car finance agreements did, but you won't know. So the only way you can find out if you had a DCA is to put in a complaint. Now, I just want to read to you something that the regulator is saying at the moment, because it's probably the most important thing I'll say today. The regulator says, quote, "Our advice remains that consumers concerned that they were not told about commission and who think they may have paid too much for the finance should complain now. We aim to make any scheme easy to participate in without needing to use a claims management company or law firm. Using a CMC or law firm may end up costing them up to 30% in fees of any compensation they receive." So two crucial messages there. One, if you feel you want to complain now, you can. And I think it would be most useful in older cases where there's a risk of them destroying your details or the details having been destroyed in the past, but you still have details of your car finance arrangements. But if you're doing it, don't use a claims firm, because the way they're looking at setting this redress up, and remember, they're launching a consultation that comes out in October, and this won't happen till next year, so nothing is firm. But the way they're looking at doing it is the company will contact you, and then there are one of two options of schemes they'll use. Either you'll then automatically get the money, or they'll contact you and say, fill in this form to claim your compensation. So if you sign up to a claims management firm, then you could get the money automatically, but it'll want 30% of it, even though it hasn't done anything. So the easy way, if you want to put a complaint in, is you put in a complaint that says, have I had a discretionary commission arrangement? And if I have, I want to log a complaint, please. You can do that yourself, or I've had over 3.3 million template letters doing it on my website, where we have an easy tool that does it for you. Just search discretionary commission arrangements, car finance on Money Saving Expert, and it's there for you. And that is the mainstay of reclaiming we're going to see in future. People are going to get single-digit hundreds of pounds, not thousands of pounds, which is a little less than we originally thought, but not much less. The other type I just need to do, sorry for giving a very long answer, is I said there was the Supreme Court, and there were three cases there which covered different elements. One of them was upheld. Now, that is what I'm going to call unfair commission. So this is where you didn't have a DCA, you didn't have a discretionary commission, but either the commission level was very high in the case they looked at, was 55% of the cost of credit, combined with the fact that their disclosure, what they said, they implied that they were working off a panel of lenders and trying to help you where they weren't. They were mainly with one car finance firm. And that could also look at whether firms have been compliant, or it could also look at the nature of the consumer. Was it a vulnerable consumer or a sophisticated consumer? It's much more complex. That's case by case. They will be consulting on how they do that, but I'm not sure that'll have the automatic type redress or the easy redress. You might need to put a complaint and go through the ombudsman on that one.
Thank you, Martin. That was hugely comprehensive and important. In short, what you're saying is, if you've had in the last 15 years or so, any car you bought on some kind of hire purchase, put in a claim and you might get hundreds of pounds.
Well, you put in a request to find out if you had a discretionary commission arrangement between 2007 and 2021, certainly. I mean, I need to manage some expectations here. The fact that you did have a discretionary commission arrangement means you'll likely be due money, but there are some factors that can throw wobblers in it. You might have had a 0% interest deal, in which case you're not due anything because there was no interest. Right. So you can't get back the difference between the interest they increased it to and the minimum interest because you weren't charged any at all. Well, you might have had only a very small amount of interest. So it isn't a slam dunk that everyone who had a DCA will automatically get hundreds of pounds. Some will, some won't. But yes, if you think you're in that category and you feel it was unfair, then you can put a complaint in now, or you can wait until after the consultation. I don't think at this moment that would make that much difference, and it might be done automatically.
Although, as you said, Martin, 40% of people who had them didn't even know they had them. So unless it's a very onerous process, put in the request and see what happens?
Yeah, it's 40% of car finance between those dates had DCAs, and almost none of them knew they had DCAs. So you have to put in that request, absolutely. And people can put a complaint in now. I'm sort of trying to balance this, that it's a perfectly reasonable thing to do to put a complaint in now, but I don't want to, if you've already put one in, you don't need to do it again. But if you haven't done one and you don't do one, I don't think you're going to be particularly disadvantaged. If I get more nuanced on this, so look, if you have recent car finance, they have to by law keep the details of your car finance. And the way the regulator is looking, if the consultation goes the way we expect and nothing is guaranteed, then it will order companies to contact you if they know that you had one of these DCAs or may have been in the unfair commission category. So that's going to happen. The biggest concern here for me is two things. There's one, that the industry is going to fight how far you can go back. There's already talk of them saying it shouldn't go back to 2007, it should go back to 2014. My message to people in the industry would be, you're already liable for far less than you thought you may have been after the Supreme Court decision. What we need here is consistency, transparency, and to move on from this. So let this one go. The regulator, well done for the FCA of saying it should go back to 2007, which is what you could do through an ombudsman case. I think that is a sensible move for it to go back to 2007. So that would be one of the problems. The other problem would be that no one has details of an older case. You know, they don't have to keep details more than 6 years after the case, after your car finance was active. So if they don't have the details and you don't have the details, that's going to be tricky. And how that is worked through will be part of the consultation. And the third thing that we don't know, that will all be part of the consultation, is what happens to those people who already signed up to a claims management firm. And this is the one I'm getting most questions on. They already signed up to a claims management firm and they're not going to need that claims management firm. And the answer is we don't know. I mean, the likelihood is it's contractual and you'll have to give them 30% of the money. It's why I've always said, you know, don't use a claims management firm for these type of things if it's easy to do it yourself, which it has been. So nothing is totally certain yet because there is a consultation to come and I'm sure the industry is going to be battling it to an extent. But I'm trying to give a general idea of where we are right now. Thank you so much, Martin. And we are all much more informed now than we were 6 minutes ago. We really appreciate you coming on and giving us all the details.
Thank you, Martin.
So much.